Welcome to the Score Business Showcase. Once again, I'm your host, Steve Geyer, and also our co-host is Marianne Coche. And as you know, as far as being Score is concerned, boy, we provide many services to our viewers and to throughout the nation. So this is not just local, providing various services such as personal mentoring. Also, we have free webinars. And what did I miss, Marianne?
Well, there's lots of guides also and templates and a lot of frequently asked questions that could be answered on the SCORE website as well.
Very good. And today we have our guest. Today is Henry Hecht, and he what he does is all words verbal, and actually helping students and also businesses as far as their verbal messaging. And welcome, Henry.
Welcome. All things verbal. Anything with words, I can help you.
Fantastic. I'll let
That,
you kick it off, Marianne.
yeah, I'm curious about that title. Your website is Step Right Up, and I love the way you wrote right, really clever with that. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you do and your business?
Well, my business is helping people with words. Most of it is high school kids prepping for the SAT and the ACT, helping them with writing skills, which, God, they needed, and also helping them with college essays. I also do business editing because too many brochures, reports, advertisements are poorly written and don't get their message across properly. So if you have anything to do with words, I can make it better. I also work with standardized tests for kids who are applying to prep schools or boarding schools. I help sometimes college students, most of whom have been kids I worked with in high school. Maybe they need to get a little help starting off doing another level, college level writing, which is a lot more difficult and demanding than high school writing. And I don't like to work with kids younger than eighth grade, but occasionally I'll work with kids in seventh grade on writing only.
Now, what led you down this path?
Well, my whole professional life has been about the English language, which I worship. I was a journalist for 35 years, starting in 1969 November, mostly as a sports writer. I worked for the New York Post. I worked for Sports Illustrated. I worked for Newsday on Long Island. I freelanced for just about everybody in the world, including the New York Times, the Daily News, New York Magazine. So all my life, it's been words. And then in 2004, my wife and I started to realize that the hours as a journalist, by then I was a copy editor because I didn't want to travel anymore, were killing my family life. I wasn't seeing my wife and stepdaughters enough. So I took a really great severance package. And just some advice for anybody: the first offer of severance is the best. So if you have any doubts, remember the next one won't be as good. And I left Newsday at the end of 2004. And then one morning in April in 2005, on the bathroom mirror, my wife wrote writing coach. And that's how I started. I didn't start doing the SAT and ACT. Sort of fell into that. Our neighbor and dear friend, their daughter had taken Kaplan, the group tutoring, bombed. She asked me to help, and I said, Lisa, I don't know anything about this. Help. I don't know anything about this. Help. I helped, and miracle of miracles, to plagiarize the Fiddler on the Roof, she improved by 140 points.
Wow.
So that's how I fell into that. And I've been doing it ever since. So now we're going on 15 years, 16 years in the middle of April. And I
Wow.
love it. I've been blessed. I've had two careers and I've loved every one of them because I work with the English language.
I can hear that in your voice and when you tell your story. How would you say, Henry, your personal life aligns with your business?
Well, my personal life is that my kids are out of the house, my stepkids are out of the house, and I can make my own schedule. I am available 7 days a week. Generally, I like to take Saturday off, but in a pinch, I'll work Saturday. And I could work before the pandemic. Sometimes I went to the kid's house. Sometimes the kids came to me. Sometimes in a certain circumstance, we Skyped, which now we're doing all the time. My first person I Skyped with was a student who her junior year, she spent it in Shanghai. And I gave her 10 SAT practice tests to take with her. And during that year, we Skyped. I've Skyped from San Jose. I've Skyped from Florida. I've Skyped from Massachusetts. I had a student in Scarsdale who was a notorious last minute guy. And it would be 9:30 at night, and he'd call me, Mr. Hecht, I got a paper due tomorrow. I'm having problems. So we'd Skype like that. But the personal touch, sitting side by side with the student, is so much more preferred. But the world is turned upside down, and until it rights itself up, it has to be by Skype or by FaceTime.
Now, 15, 16 years ago, how did you get involved in this? How did you get started? And what were some of your challenges that you had?
Well, I got started very, very slowly. I didn't know anybody. My wife and I live in New York in my incredibly cheap rent stabilized apartment. Don't even ask how little it is. And sometimes in Stamford, I knew nobody in Stamford other than relatives and a few friends of my wife. And it took me 3.5 years to get started. I sent out letters to businesses asking if they needed help. I contacted guidance counselors and English teachers. And what I did for 3.5 years to supplement income was that I was a substitute teacher, which gave me a lot of insight into high school kids. I only did it in high school, except one day I had an emergency. They needed me. I did 3rd grade. 5 kids cried during the day, and I would never do it again. And I respected a million times more how hard it is to be an elementary school teacher. And then about 3.5 years, I suddenly got traction. One mother to another mother to another mother. Consider it the mother's telegraph. And enough people knew me and recommended me on that I was able to stop substituting. But I'm always looking for new students. You always worry, where's the next student coming from? I don't care if I'm swamped, overbooked. You always worry where the next student is coming from. And the phone rings and it's a mom and go, yay, that's the next student.
Yeah, it's someone else that you can serve, right? Someone else that you could help.
Exactly.
Y- How would you say over the years your business has pivoted?
Well, it pivoted immediately, as I said, when I started doing the standardized tests. But then after a couple of years, I did business editing for UBS in Stamford and for Mackenzie Williams, which is an oil consulting firm. Unfortunately, 2008 came and that dried up. But you just, the business stuff just wasn't as much. So then I started working on the tests for the 8th graders trying to get to private school or boarding school. It's called the SSAT, the ICEE. I expanded my reach from Southern Fairfield County into Westchester and then into New York. I have a connection to a girls' Catholic school in Greenwich Village, where I tutor some of the kids for free. If they're on scholarship there, they're on scholarship with me, but I've had some good paying customers from there. You're always looking for new sources. You just have to be persistent, and you have to accept the fact that there's going to be a dry spell. It happens, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. And you have to be confident, I am doing this right, and this will change, and it always does.
Now, just like a restaurant or particularly a buffet, they offer a variety of things, all right, to serve their clients. How many services do you offer?
Well, business editing, which is anything a business puts out in the English language. High school kids, SAT, ACT, classroom work, essays, term papers, and college essays, especially the Common App. which is called the Common Application, which almost every college wants. And it is a maximum of 650 words that lets the college know this is who this student is. And also, as I said, with the younger kids and with the college kids, not I've stayed out of the GRE, which is for graduate students, because I don't want to get involved with that. But it's it's anything. I had a guy who had a dog walking company, and he wanted to put out one of these unfolding things with a lot of information. And he gave me a shot, and he was thrilled. Anything with words, I will make better. Including annoying some people in my networking group, pointing out their mistakes.
I'm curious, Henry. You have a process that you work with your clients. I'm sure there's accountability involved. How do you go through that process?
Well, I tell the parents that I'm sure I'll be able to help the kid, but I might only be able to help the kid a little bit. I tell them right off the bat, I cannot promise that your son will get a certain score, your son or daughter will get into a certain college. You have to be realistic. Then after I've worked with the kid and maybe they've taken the test the first time, I can tell the parent, well, all right, he improved 20 points. That's not a lot, but it's progress. I think he or she can improve maybe 30 or 40 more points, but I wouldn't be confident more than that. It could always happen, but I wouldn't count on it. So I can tell with some students when I'm working with them, they're really, really smart and they get it, and they get it quickly. And I tell the parent, sky's the limit. I can't promise an 800, which is the top score, but this kid will get a really good score because he's really smart. He's working hard at what we're doing, and he's scoring very well in practice tests. But you can't promise anything because it is completely imponderable. Sometimes, and I've had it, terrific student, I know should get 750 out of 800, and that test does not hit the sweet spots. It hits the sour spots. And then sometimes I think a kid might get 670, 680, and whatever is on that test is the kid's sweet points, and maybe they get 720. It's unpredictable, and you can't promise specific things. You can promise, I'll work my tushy off for your kid. Your kid will improve. I just don't know how much.
Now, with being in business, sometimes can be a challenge, and also there's many successes, and we're always learning things being in business. Now, what have you learned from being a business owner?
Well, I've learned that there is literally, cliche coming, no substitute for hard work. You have to keep in contact with the parents, because I'm almost always dealing with parents no matter what the kid is working on. You have to keep them in the loop, let them know what's happening, good and bad. You have to always encourage the kids. Always, 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 because what am I doing, whether it's working with their writing or their standardized tests, I'm telling them this is what you're doing wrong. And the point is encourage, encourage, encourage. If they make a really dumb mistake based on they forgot what my very extensive notes tell them, I warn them, then you're going to make this mistake again. And when you make this mistake again, you have a choice. You either can slap your forehead with your palm or give yourself a noogie. And the point is, humor is not only the best medicine, it's also the best way to point out somebody's error. In a sense, I'm giving them medicine they don't like the taste of, and I try to make it as palatable as possible by injecting humor into it along with the constant encouragement. But you have to keep the parents in the loop. If the kid is struggling, you have to tell the parents, kid is struggling, we'll keep at it. I just want to let you know.
I like that mix with the humor and being realistic and keeping everyone in the loop. I
It's
think that's
imperative. It's
very important.
imperative.
So, what would you say, what types of skills would you say are really needed to be a successful business owner, entrepreneur?
Well, you always have to keep thinking, where are new markets? But beneath that, it's all about hard work. It's about every year in August contacting, I have, in my computer, the guidance counselors, the English teachers, the principals, if I know them, keeping up with parents. I make it a point um, when they tell me there's a younger sibling to keep in contact with them. Even if they don't have a younger sibling, if their child appears on LinkedIn, now they're in college and they got a summer job, or now they've graduated. Remember, I've been doing this for almost 16 years. I've got students who are in their mid 30s and have kids already. Keep in contact. Tell them you're still doing this. I'm still doing this. If you know anybody who might need my help, please let me know. Please tell them about me. It's all about relationships. It's a unique business, and it's also based on dealing with my clients' failures. So you just have to be in constant contact and never let them forget that you're out there to help, whether it's their younger kids or a neighbor's kids or even their grandkids. I always carry cards, business cards in my wallet, and anytime on a plane, in an airport, on the train between New York and Stamford, if anything seems even remotely possible, I give them my business card. Keep on handing it out.
Communication is a big thing there, Henry, as you know. What advice would you give our business owners out there?
Do not expect instant success. Be prepared to bang your head against a wall for X amount of time. For me, it was, like I said, 3.5 years. Not that I didn't have any students, but sometimes I might have only 2 or 3 students. Sometimes I might have only 1 or 2, sometimes 4 or 5. But after that 3.5 years, then I might have 9, 10, 11, 6, 7, 8. And then, of course, I go to a dry spell. But you just have to keep pushing, 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 pushing. It ain't easy. For the first 35 years of my professional life, my boss said, do this, do that, do this, and do that. And then suddenly it was all on my shoulders. My wife has been incredibly supportive, but she only can help with emotional support. I have to do the heavy lifting, and I still have to do the heavy lifting. And I will do this heavy lifting until I can no longer, physically do it or mentally do it, because I love it. And I think that's important. I think my enthusiasm to do my job, to help make kids better, to help make business writing better, to help their writing improve, I think my enthusiasm is contagious. That's just who I am. I'm just that kind of guy. So I guess I was a natural for that. And I remember when I started in newspapers, after about 5 years, I was covering baseball. And during the off season, I would be relatively free. I would work as a editor in the office. And I sort of convinced my bosses, let me work with the younger writers. I had people who taught me, who were wonderful and worked hard with me, and just, paying it forward. And then suddenly it became a business idea.
I really love how the skills that you have as a journalist and the history and all the experiences actually transferred over into this new venture, right? Or newer venture when you shifted. And I think that's really good for small business owners to realize that they have a lot of skills that they can really use in their business. So when you approach your job, what would you say is the hardest part of it?
Um, Accepting failure, accepting the lean times, accepting that at times you're going to have 1 or 2 students and it looks like there's nobody else in the world who wants to use you. And you cannot get discouraged because it is cyclical. And I just don't like it, but I keep pushing and I keep pushing.
What you're actually selling, Henry, is not something that's tangible. It's not like a pen. It is words. So what do you offer that is unique?
That I'm great at it. I understand how the English language works. I have one gift besides my gift of gab, and that's my understanding of how the English language works, how you explain it, understand it, deal with it, conquer it. Though it's a battle you never win. You're always learning. My SAT and ACT notes, I am constantly revising because I find better ways to explain how to do the SAT and ACT. I make notes on my answer sheets that I have to go back into my document and rewrite something. I constantly do that. I never sit still. I'm never satisfied.
I'm curious, how long do you actually work with a client for typically?
Well, with a kid taking the SAT and ACT, I tell the parents I feel comfortable with 6 sessions that last about an hour, but they can go an hour, 10 and 15. I don't stop the clock at 59 minutes and 59 seconds because I go very slowly at first, whether it's with writing or with the standardized tests. I'll explain something in great detail. The kid's going to make the mistake again. But the next time, instead of spending 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes explaining it in great detail, now it's 30 or 40 seconds. And suddenly we're far more efficient. With the college essays, I tell the parents, start as soon as possible because the kid is going to have to rewrite. One of my rules of writing is good writing is rewriting. Never be satisfied. Go over it the 7th time. And you'll go, oh my God, how did I not notice that I screwed up here and I have to work on it and make it better?
Now, you had mentioned earlier about humor. How do you weave in humor into what you do?
Luckily, I got something from my dad who had the gift of gab, and I have a sense of humor. You either have it or you don't. So I'm blessed that it works so well with my kids. At some point, I'll talk to the parents. When I talk to the parents and the kid before we start, I tell them, and there's one more very important thing I want you to know before we start. John, Mary, they have to laugh at my bad jokes because I'm going to make bad jokes. And the more bad jokes I make that are good bad jokes, believe me, they're good bad jokes, the more the student relaxes. And as we know, the more you can relax as you do something, the better you're going to do it. You're not going to be plagued by self-doubts. You're not going to be kicking yourself. You're going to have that optimism. I drive my wife crazy because I'm an optimist. She says sometimes, God, you're so happy. It drives me crazy. But that's who I am. So I'm a natural for this. I was a natural to be a sports writer because I have to interact with people, had to interact with people all the time. I had to start a relationship with them, not as friends, but in a sense as colleagues. And thank you, Dad, Isidore Lewis Hecht. Thank you for giving me that gift of gab.
Well, I think that is great how you're unique with that humor. And, this is what you're working with when you work with these students. I can imagine that this is very emotional for them. So that humor, there's a lot of pressure on them at that time. And that
Exactly.
humor sounds like a great way.
Exactly. That's the point. There's pressure to get a good score, and then there's the pressure of me saying, let's see, you got that one wrong, and let me explain this. Just a little side issue. A kid struggling on a test and getting a lot wrong, and then gets 3 right in a row. So a little subterfuge. And now we go all the way down to here. And it's only 3 questions they got right in a row, but it's sort of, a little psychology to think, oh, wow, I got 3, I got all the way down to here before I had another mistake. That's the little things. that's the little things.
Now, with working with the students, what has been what you would say was your most successful student that you are, or person that you work with?
This is funny. Um, I worked with a young man with an IQ of 181, literally a genius, who was on the spectrum with Asperger's. Was in high school and had always been in high school, but he had, issues. He wasn't profoundly Asperger's, but he had issues. And his mother liked my website. It was blind. And I started with him in writing. We eventually went to the SAT and ACT. He took both tests and he got one wrong question out of, like, I don't know, 116. He got perfect score on one, and the other one, he got a perfect score. It's just that sometimes you get one wrong, you still get the top score. But with the writing, he had no confidence. The teachers didn't know how to deal with him. Now, I'm a really good writer, but by the time he was a senior, he was composing sentences that I could never have composed. His writing was it was brilliant. Well, he is brilliant. And I felt so good that I was able to get that out of him. That he got one wrong between both the SAT and the ACT. Well, what a surprise. His IQ was 181. But that he became such a wonderful writer. Just, oh God, that was just made me feel so good.
It sounds like it's really rewarding.
It's
What
incredibly rewarding. It really is. One of my students, she was one of my favorite students. I went to Vanderbilt, and I enjoyed so much working with her. She was so hardworking, and she's really smart. And she got into Vanderbilt, and I said, "Oh, that's great. You can't get any better than that."
that's
You know.
great.
So
How can I love hearing these stories. How can our viewers get in touch with you, Henry?
well, my information is up there. Step Right Up is the name of my business. That's 3 words. My website, to give it a look, is www.steprightedup.com. And my office phone is 203-461-8312. My cell is 203-554-4004. And then there's also text. So there's text, email, phone, Pony Express, smoke signals, and carrier pigeon. I accept all incoming mail or stuff like that.
Well,
The smoke signals, you have to wait for a day it's not raining.
this is really great. I really want to thank you for being on the show. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me. That I love what I'm doing, and I'm just blessed that I had 2 careers that have just been so much fun for me to do with the one thing I love other than my family.
Yes, and yes, thank you once again for showing up, Henry. Great
My pleasure.
information. You
Thank
know,
you for asking such good questions.
yeah, words is a big thing. So once again, to our viewers out there, once again, check out our website. It's posted on the screen there, and we thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much too, Marianne. And once again, this has been this SCORE Business Showcase to your success.
Okay.